Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Nathan, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. So, what are we doing today? We have a balance patch, actually. Very big balance patch, in fact, coming up. Patch 3.13.0, I think is the actual number, irrelevant. But it's got a lot of nerfs coming, actually, in my opinion, some buffs that look like they're meaningful and might actually change something. Most importantly, Kaisa's getting nerfed. I'm glad. So we're gonna go through, if you've never seen one of these type of videos where I talk about the balance patch, we're gonna go through, we're gonna look at the balance patch, we're gonna talk about the card changes, give my opinion on them, talk about whether I think things needed to be nerfed more, nerfed less, things I would like to see buffed that weren't, how I think the meta will shape up, whether I think things were not nerfed enough or nerfed too much. So, with that all said and done, let's actually go and look at the balance patch and look at all the cards changed. So, I was correct, patch 3.13.0. And we got Bard as our cover art, because he also got nerfed, I believe. So let's go through the balance patch. So 3.130, here's a look at each of the card updates coming this patch. I will say this, I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of wish there was a little more text here, just a little more of a thought process being typed out so we could hear like the thoughts and hopes that the devs have with some of these changes. Instead we got like a sentence or two, I think, for each change. Anyway, first off, Illaoi. Illaoi is now a 1-5 instead of a 1-6, and of course that means she also is a 2-6 instead of a 2-7 when she levels up. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really think she needed a nerf. I feel like one of the strengths of Illaoi was always her high health pool. This I really don't like. I don't like this nerf, and before you say, well, she was in one of the best decks in the format. Yes, Bard Illaoi was really good. Outside of Bard Illaoi, she was kind of non-existent. You can say like, oh well, Illaoi Demacia, like Illaoi J4, Illaoi Lux kind of existed. Yes, but it sort of fell off in favor of Illaoi Bard. So I honestly feel like this is not necessary for a nerf. I really feel like, one, I don't honestly think it even changes that much. Sure, less health does suck. I don't think it does that much to change her, though, to lower Illaoi's overall power level, which maybe that's what they were aiming for. I still think Illaoi Lux, Illaoi J4, like Illaoi Demacia, basically, will be a okay tier 2 deck. There's not really much of a break point between 5 and 6 health. Like, there's not really removal that suddenly is great against Illaoi now, in my opinion, because she has 5 health compared to 6 health. I guess you could technically argue Warrior, the 5/5 Challenger Celestial, and maybe like a Ping plus a Ravenous Flock, I guess, but those aren't common scenarios. I guess Ping Flock is kind of common, but yeah, I don't like this nerf. I feel like this is just Illaoi catching a nerf because of Bard and Bard's problems, but it's whatever. The second card here, Tentacle Smash. Doing the same thing it's always done. Now it's spawns 2 instead of 3. I kind of like this buff. While I love Tentacle Smash as a card, I did, after playing it more and more, I do feel like it is just a little too free for certain decks. Also, it is kind of just... I mean, this is the problem with like removal versus creatures units. It did feel like it just was too good at removing things, like really key backline units, things like Eye of the Dragon, even Annie. And it feels bad when your opponent, spends 4 mana, kills your unit, and still has a unit left over. So, I don't know, it feels bad. So, I think this nerf isn't really going to affect Illaoi too much. Yes, it does affect any deck that plays it because it is objectively a nerf. But I feel like decks that aren't spawning much are going to have to think twice about playing a Tentacle Smash. They might still play it because, it is in Bilgewater, and Bilgewater's removal is kind of not that great. It's mid-game removal. But yeah, like TF Nami. TF Nami likes this card. Will TF Nami keep playing this? I think, in my opinion, TF Nami can cut the card. They don't really need it. They like it, but they don't need it. So time will tell. But yeah, I think Illaoi players will still play all 3 Tentacle Smashes. Next up, we got Karma. Not much to talk about here. I've played a lot of Karma. I believe she is my 2nd most played champion after Zoe. So I feel like, if you ask my personal opinion, Karma's one of the champs I actually feel like I can talk about. So what's the buff? She's a 4/4. So, okay. Like, I mean, yes, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. Like, cool. Like, every champion would, in like almost any card, would love some extra health, except for, I guess, cards that want to die. But even cards that want to die are probably like, yeah, sure, I'll take an extra point of health. Like Avarosin Sentry, the 2-mana 2/1. Probably wouldn't mind being a 2-mana 2/2. I don't think this changes much for Karma decks. I think, in my opinion, Karma decks have a lot of problems. Yes, one of those problems was that Karma's easy, really easy to kill, especially at level 1 because of the 3 health, because, you know, Aftershock, get excited, etc., etc. It is nice that she won't die to a flock, just like a plain flock now, like a Arachnoid Sentry plus flock now when she's level 2. That is really nice. But I'd say like other problems Karma has is she needs a very specific meta, like Karma decks in general. You might, and like there are basically 2 camps of Karma decks. There's Shadow Isles Karma and there's PNZ Karma. There's the 3rd one, which is Targon Karma, but that kind of Karma hasn't been great in a while. With some of these buffs, though, I think Targon Karma might be a thing again, maybe. I guess there's also technically Demacia Karma with Lux, but that hasn't really been a thing for more than a year, I feel. But yeah, like mostly whenever you do see a Karma play on ladder, if they're not a meme deck, because, you know, there are memes like Action Karma, they're usually either Shadow Isles Karma or PNZ Karma. They both have their own problems. And they share a lot of the same problems. Ionia in general for control, while it doesn't suck, it's just, it kind of just feels inferior. And another problem is Karma. While I love Karma and she's really fun and really good in late game, a level 2 Karma doesn't actually out late game some decks. Number 3 is Riptide Rex. I'd say like a Riptide Rex that's powered up by a Tibalt or even 2 Tibalts just is a nightmare for a lot of these slow, grindy control decks. That is what Karma wants to do. You can argue, well, the PNZ style is more combo-y with like Karma plus all the burn. Sure. Like Karma Victor, Karma Ezreal. Removal could kind of suck too. Like you usually have to rely on your secondary region for removal. So that's why Shadow Isles and PNZ are kind of the 2 main Karma decks, and why, in my opinion, why Targon sort of started to fall off, because Targon and Ionia don't really have great spot removal. They have a little bit, but it's not great. Like Sonic Wave, Sunburst, like it's not great. Like Sonic Wave is fine. Like Sonic Wave combined with Eye of the Dragon's solid, but yeah. I don't know, like I'm definitely going to play a lot of Karma decks. I'm going to play Karma Aphelios when this patch comes out. I don't have high hopes for it. I might try some Karma Shadow Isles. Really, I feel like it's going to come down to the meta. If something like Turbo Thralls is still around, then Karma's going to be bad probably, because your landmark removal probably sucks. And landmark removal is not even that good against things like Turbo Thralls. You could argue, I say like, oh, there's Homecoming, there's Crumble, maybe Aftershock. Aftershock's probably the only good one out of all those that I named. Anyway, we're rambling about Karma. I'm sorry, I really like Karma. Like she is actually my favorite champion in the game, and it just makes me sad that she's not playable. And I keep an eye on her and try to play her in various decks every now and again because, you know, she's fun. Next card though, Gnar. Gnar is basically staying the same, but now he discounts a Pokestick by 2 instead of 1. I mean, cool. I don't think this brings Gnar back to his old power level. If you don't know, Gnar used to be a 4-mana 4/3. And people are like, oh, it's just +1 attack. It's like 1 attack nerf. Like, an attack nerf on a quick attack unit is a really big nerf. Like, Gnar, like, there are a decent amount of 4 health 3 drops that Gnar just can't attack into. You might be able to argue, oh, you can bluff and stuff. Yeah, but it's like, if you bluff and your opponent calls your bluff, that kind of sucks. That feels really, really bad. So, Gnar is fine. Like, Gnar is solid. Like, there's nothing... Like, Gnar is not bad, and this buff is not really going to change much, in my opinion. Like, what deck plays Gnar right now? There isn't. Like, Shellfolk? Like, Vandal, City, Shurima, Shellfolk? Like, you can argue, I guess, like, maybe Transform, but Gnar is kind of just falling off to the side. Maybe go wide Vandal might be a thing again, and we'll see Gnar get played, but I'm not sure about that. Now, this is a scary buff, actually. Zillion is getting a new champion spell. His current champion spell, I honestly don't even remember the name of, but it was the 7-mana, basically revive a champion if it gets killed this turn and give it +3/+3. Really, really mediocre. A lot of the time, you'd actually prefer your Zillion to die because you would rather just play another Zillion. He's getting careful preparation as a champion spell. This card is great. Like, some people have just never seen or at least have never played this card because, you know, they don't play decks that would play this card. This card sees play in 2 solid decks, in my opinion. Or at least, it's not a staple in either of those 2 decks, but it sees play in those decks sometimes. Echo Zillion, and Shurima Shellfolk. Shurima Shellfolk likes it because, you know, Predict plus Shellfolk is combo. Zillion Shellfolk, or Zillion, Echo Zillion likes it because it lets them fish for more stuff, basically. That's it. And, you know, it's another Predict, too. I'm really scared of this buff. So this is buffing, like, in my opinion, this is buffing 3 decks that are all either, like, tier 3 or at least low tier 2, in my opinion. Shurima Shellfolk, because you want to play 3 Zillions in that, because Time Bombs can become a win con. Zillion's a decent blocker, and the Predict is helpful for smoothing out your curve. Echo Zillion, because you should know Echo Zillion by now. Zillion's mostly just used as a Predict. Like a 2-mana 1/4 Predict. But, you know, good champ spell now. And then there's the Mono Zillion Time Bomb Printer, Time Bomb Creator, Spammy deck, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people say that's a meme. I kind of agree it's like a meme, but I don't think it's as bad as some people say. I really do think it can actually see some play. Like, some people have definitely also used Time Bomb Printer to actually climb the ladder, like the Master's Ladder too. So I do think a Time Bomb Printer is a tier 3 deck and probably gets even better in tournaments. And with this change, it gets even better because it means they can make even more Time Bombs. So yeah, like all of those decks I've mentioned, like any Zillion deck likes this change. No Zillion deck out there cared about his champion spell. No serious Zillion deck. There's probably like a meme deck out there that did. But yeah, like a very annoying champ spell. So yeah, you might actually have to kill your enemy's Zillions now when you see them because of this. Now Bard. Bard got a nerf. His origin doesn't start until turn 3, basically. So you're basically missing out on 6 chimes. You might say, like, is that bad? Not really. I feel like I've seen a lot of people say this is a big change, a big nerf to Bard. I feel like people are overreacting to this Bard nerf. I really do think the only thing this is really changing for Bard is that he's not as good against very early game, early aggressive decks. Because a lot of people, like seasonal level, tournament level players, would say Bard, one of the strengths of Bard would just be high rolling an early chime, and that would stonewall those aggressive decks. You just roll like a turn 2 3/3 or a turn 3 4/4, and your aggro opponent's like, well, I have a 1-mana 2/1 and a 2-mana 3/2. I'm kind of screwed against that. So I like this. It seems like it's a nerf that, in my opinion, is not going to completely kill Bard. So I like it. I'm a big fan of it. Next up, Cosmic Binding, the Chime stun spell, 5 mana, deal 2 to an enemy, stun another, plant 3 chimes in your deck. Now it's giving you 6 chimes. So it seems like they're saying it's supposed to be a compensation for the Bard nerf. Sure, I guess, like, you only really play this deck if you just need more playables, or if the meta is very specific and you want stuns in your deck, in my opinion. Like, it's actually pretty solid against, say, Kaisa. Like, you would see some people playing this in their decks because they're like, oh, if I can stun Kaisa and buy basically a turn, that's great. Next up, speaking of Kaisa, we got a Kaisa nerf here. 2 nerfs to Kaisa. Second Skin is going from focus to slow. That's a very big nerf. Supercharge is now 4 mana. I like these nerfs. I don't think it's killing Kaisa. I just think this means a turn 5 Kaisa is not as safe as it was before, and it opens up a lot more windows for interaction now against Kaisa decks. Now your opponent might play like Kaisa and play Second Skin, right? And now you can be like, oh, okay, I don't like what you're copying here. Let me respond to Second Skin and either, kill the Kaisa or kill the unit that's getting targeted by Second Skin. So I really like that. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen it where my opponent has Kaisa on the board, and then they play like Supercharge Second Skin, and I'm sitting here just twiddling my thumbs because I'm like, I can't do anything because, it's all focus speed or something, or burst speed or whatever. It's actually both focus speed. Also, Supercharge going up to 4 mana. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it should have always been 4 mana. Some people laughed at me when I was comparing Supercharge to Bastion and being like, oh, well, streamer, you're a moron. Bastion is burst speed. Supercharge isn't burst speed. You can play Bastion in response to removal. I'm like, sure. Yes, you're not wrong. But the fact that it supercharges, I also even mentioned this, the fact that you can cast Supercharge with spell mana only is really big. And I mentioned this, you can actually go and probably look back at the reveal video that I created when Supercharge was revealed. I was like, one of my biggest problems was Supercharge being able to be casted with only spell mana. So you could, do what's being seen a lot now, play Kaisa and play Supercharge all on the same turn on turn 5. And you sometimes see that happen where your opponent's like, okay, turn 5, I play Kaisa, pass to you. Oh, you don't have removal, so I don't have to use the hourglass or the sharp sight or whatever that's in my hand. Cool. Supercharge, Second Skin, whatever I supercharge, and now your opponent has the Kaisa with all the keywords on it, casting a Cathian Rain, and the other supercharged unit too. That was really powerful and really hard to beat sometimes. So yeah, I like this change. I think it will slow Kaisa decks down quite a bit. I think it should slow the Kaisa attack turn by a turn or so, or maybe even 2. And I do like Second Skin going to slow speed because you can actually interact with Kaisa now. I do think this will kill mono Kaisa, but I think Kaisa will still exist in the form of Severe Kaisa. I think Severe Kaisa will actually be fine. Probably going to go and start playing some more Void Abominations too, because they can't just get the turn 5 Kaisa and just win the game now. But yeah, nice nerf to Kaisa, but I think she is still a strong, solid tier 2, maybe even tier 1 champion. And Hatespike. Hatespike is now 1 mana. This is scary. This is really, really scary. Like, not so much for Evelyn decks itself, but I am kind of scared for this deck, or this card in other decks. Like, just anything running Shadow Isles. 1 mana deal 2 is really scary. You might say like, oh, but you have to kill a unit. Okay, that's not that big of a problem in a lot of decks, especially Shadow Isles decks. You got Minion, you got that fading icon, the thing that summons prey. Honestly, I've been thinking like, how about Shadow Isles? Like Shadow Isles plus what's it called? Shellfolk? Get a husk for your shell folk to get both a keyword and the health buff for your shell folk. Maybe play Gwen in that too. I don't know. That seems scary to me. So yeah, I don't know. Like Nasus Thresh, Gwen decks might all play this. Of course, Evelyn too. Like Evelyn's like, yeah, oh boy, a buff for me. So yeah, sure. Like Evelyn's good buff for Evelyn. And then Harsh Winds. They are admitting that like it's technically a champion buff, but the main goal here is to give players better tools for interacting with huge units. I guess Ashe can play this, but outside of Ashe, no deck really main decks Harsh Winds, and I still don't think at 5 mana they'll main deck it. So yeah, I really feel like this is mostly going to be for Ashe decks who will main deck 1, maybe 2 Harsh Winds to try and, you know, kill the opponent. And of course, it's going to be an Anivia buff too. Like Anivia likes this. Anivia is probably looking at this like, wow, they actually gave me a buff. That's crazy. They haven't buffed Anivia in probably like a year and a half. So that's cool. I like Anivia. I play Anivia every now and again. I usually am on of the opinion that Field of Rush is just Anivia but better, but you know, Anivia's fine. Anivia's fun. Speaking about Freljord nerfs, Blighted Ravine has had its wording changed a lot. Now it only heals your Nexus for 2 HP instead of 4 HP, but it also doesn't hit the Nexus. Now it only hits units, so you're still getting 2 HP in total, and it's still dealing 2 damage to all the units. The only change really is just like, you can't basically burn out your opponent. Now you can argue like, oh, my plunder Freljord deck. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Any Blighted Ravine decks that cared about hitting the Nexus were kind of trash. Like Swain Sejuani was probably the best deck that cared about Blighted Ravine hitting Nexus, and Swain Sejuani kind of is bad. But yeah, like small nerfs to Ravine, retaining its board sweep but losing the superfluous Nexus damage. So I guess like sure, I don't have to be worried when I'm at 4 health now against Freljord decks, I guess. Like I've definitely lost a couple of times to a person just playing double Blighted Ravine against me, like Turbo Thrall players. Speaking of Turbo Thralls, they nerfed Thralls. Yay! I don't like Thralls, so I'm happy with this. The countdown is now at 9. And they say that they're nerfing Thralls mostly as a preemptive nerf because a lot of the cards that they're nerfing are in decks that are good against Thralls and are holding back Thralls too, in fact, like Kaisa. Well, not Kaisa so much, but Azir Aurelia. I'm going to be honest with you, I do think Thralls will actually see a lot of play. Like, that is my prediction for this meta. I think Thralls will actually rise up in play rate, especially at least in the first few days. Because I feel like the first few days are going to be bad control decks like Karma decks, bad Target Invoke decks, and aggro decks like Monkeys and Pirates. And Thralls will enjoy avalanching and ravining those Pirate decks and Monkey decks. So, you know, it's going to be a little scary though, but it is a whole turn of a nerf, but I still think like the nerf doesn't do as much damage as some people have been saying. Like, I still think Thralls is a strong, potentially probably even tier 1 deck. A couple of PNZ nerfs. I really don't like these nerfs. Boom Baboon is now a 2-1 instead of a 3-1. I really don't like it. Well, I said I've always thought it needs a nerf. The more and more I play it, the more I'm like, it's just fair. It's not strong. You might say like, how is this why is this getting nerfed? Really, it's just like flame chomper decks. So anything that plays Zonite Urchin, Portal Cannon, so you know, Lulu Jinx, Winding Light basically is the big offender here, I'd say. But a lot of PNZ decks like this guy. Basically, like, he beats down fairly well because 3 damage. And he blocks decently well too because he can block Fearsome. Now though, he kind of sucks. To attack is not that great. Like, basically, he's got Pharaoh's Financier, he's got Reggie's stat line, and that's not good. Like, compare this guy to Financier now, you might argue, oh, but you get discard synergy. Sure, of course, I guess, but I'll take a 6+ mana spell over Flame Chomper a lot of the time. And then Station Archivist nerf. It is a 3-2 now instead of a 3-3. I don't know if it actually is. It says the card itself is a 3-2 here on the picture, but it doesn't have it in text over here, so that's kind of weird, but I assume I'm going to go by the picture. So I'm going to assume the Station Archivist is now a 3-2. The change is now that the cards are shuffled. I know a lot of people actually didn't know this, but when you play Station Archivist, the order from left to right the spells are shown in is the order you will draw the spells in. So you could actually skill diff people by being like, oh, I see I'm going to draw a Mystic Shot in 2 turns. I still draw a Ruination in 4 turns. So, you know, you plan your next upcoming turns based on the cards you're seeing. I don't know. I don't like the shuffle, and I don't like the stat nerf especially. You could also argue this is a nerf to infinite action because it's shuffling the top of the deck. You can't just see like Station Archivist. You can't go like PlayStation Archivist, Iterative Improvement, Station Archivist again, Iterative Improvement, loop that, and then start to pick like, and then you get a full board, and then you like, you know, you do infinite action kind of shenanigans and just start to loop stuff over and over. So it does break loops, but it's, in my opinion, it doesn't nerf the deck that much. Raven Bloom Conservatory. Countdown is up to 12. I've played a lot of Raven Bloom Conservatory. I've played a lot of Tibalt, a lot of Annie TF, Katarina, Annie Ezreal. Like I said, a lot of Raven Bloom Conservatory. I love Tibalt. I always did feel like he's just a little too free, a little too easy to get out. And I always did say, like, if they nerf him, I hope they don't nerf Tibalt itself, and I hope they slow down the Conservatory, and it looks like they went with that idea. So I do like that this actually slows down Conservatory a decent amount. Feels good. Both as a control player, because the Tibalt Rex plays were a lot of damage against control. And also as a Conservatory player myself, I really like this nerf because, not because I like the nerf, but because if they have to nerf something, I'm glad they didn't nerf Tibalt and they just slowed down the countdown. Next up, we got Kadrigan. I'm going to be honest with you, I think Kadrigan's just too fair even with this change. Used to be Kadrigan was just a 6-mana 6/6 with Fury, who would give an allied champion or dragon challenger. Now he can grant any unit challenger and also gives that unit +1/+1. I just think Dragons has a problem, and in my opinion, Dragons just is too much of a mid-range kind of fair deck. You might argue, oh, but my Dragon deck plays Aurelion Sol. You're still a mid-range deck. I'm sorry. Just because you play a 10-drop doesn't mean you're a control deck. You still probably play like Shivanas. You probably play like Screeching Dragons. You want to get some early tempo. And you only really want to play Aurelion Sol if you really, really need it. I don't think Kadrigan is really helping Dragons that much. Maybe you'll play this just to give a unit challenger, but I'm pretty sure there's actually a 3-drop. I want to say there's like a 3-mana 4/2 or something in Demacia that already does that. Like a Laurent something. Might be a 4-mana 4/2, but I'm pretty sure there is like a Laurent something that says like when it gets played, give challenger to another unit for this turn. So I'm not, I guess it's a good hit from Eclipse Dragon, I guess, but Kadrigan, 6-mana Kadrigan was always a good hit from Eclipse Dragon. So it's not really that great. It's not really, I don't think we're going to start seeing Kadrigans flying around everywhere is basically what I'm trying to say. Mark of the Storm is getting buffed. They're buffing Cannon. It used to deal, when it dealt its damage, it dealt 2. Now it's dealing 3. Pretty simple and easy to understand change. It's a fairly scary change. I honestly am a little scared of Ari Kennen with this change. I don't think Kennen Ezreal will come back with this change, but I've seen some people already saying they're going to be trying Kennen Ezreal. To those people who think Kennen Ezreal will be a thing, good luck. And I hope you fail, because I don't like Kennen Ezreal at all. But yeah, like interesting change, like more damage actually, like but the difference between 2 and 3 damage is kind of big. You hit certain cards that just don't die before, you know, ballistic bots, Eye of the Dragons, etc, etc. So it's kind of nice. Like I might be revisiting something like Canon Viego again. Next up, Starbone. Big change to Starbone now. Used to be if you behold the Messenger, the 2-mana 2/2 draw card, the Doggo Celestial. Starbone would grant Celestials everywhere, Celestial allies everywhere, +1/+1. Basically now you don't have to behold the Messenger. You only have to behold a Celestial. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really know how much of a change this is. Like, Starbone's effect is strong, but here's the other problem. What deck wants this? I really feel like a little bit of a lower to the ground Zoe deck will use this. Like, maybe like a Zoe Draven, a more aggressive Invoke deck that wants to go wide. I could see maybe like Zoe Diana with Vandal City, like basically Zoe Diana Shellfolk again with, you know, Shellfolks, Yordle Captains, Mayors, Solari Priestess. I could see that being a thing, and then you use Starbone to try and like buff up your Celestials so they're more of a wall to slow down your opponent. And of course, then you try to win with like Star Shaping or Trifecta and Shellfolk value, or you know, Invoke value. Definitely gonna be trying that deck out. But yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this deck. I like it, but or this card. I like it, but I don't know. It seems a little slow, but it is nice that you don't have to behold the Messenger. So you can just, if you have mana to spare, you can just throw this out there if you have a Celestial in hand or on board. And Bloody Business. Scary buff here to Bloody Business. Does the same thing it did before, but now it has Reputation attached to it. Reputation, I cost 2. Yikes. I'm really scared of this. Bloody Business is already a good card if Reputation's not active. It's kind of like Whispered Words, good card already. If Reputation's active, kind of gets a little nutty. 2 mana to basically strike an enemy, not even fight, like single combat, but just strike, is really scary. So, you know, like, what deck will play this? Obviously, Reputation decks, right? LeBlanc Ash, LeBlanc Severe. I could honestly see, like, non-traditional Reputation decks maybe taking advantage of this. Like, I could see Viego Rumble maybe becoming a thing because of this. I don't know. Like, this is a really, really strong ability, and the card is already good as it is. So I'm really scared of this buff. Yeah, really good change basically. And then Star Shaping. This card, this buff right here is one of the reasons why I'm going to be trying out some Targon decks. Star Shaping is now healing for 5. Basically, it is a revert to a nerf that they did a long time ago that I honestly felt was not justified. I never really think Star Shaping should have been nerfed, at least in the way they nerfed it. So this is nice now. We actually heal more than a Decimate deals, so that does feel good. It says they're hoping this enables some slower decks than the current meta has allowed. I hope so, but I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of the problem with some of the slower decks is just not dying, and I don't think this really helps that much. I don't think 1 health is that much of a difference, but it is nice. Lots of Vandal changes here. Buffs here. Thunderfist and Risu are both getting buffed. Thunderfist is getting is going to be a 3/3 while the card it transforms into. Masa is now a 5/5. Risu is now a 1/3, and Stormcloud gets 3 impacts instead of 1 impact. Sure, like, I still don't really want to play these cards in my Ari decks, my Kennen decks, whatever, but I guess, like, I don't know, 3 mana 3/3 is a solid stat line, so maybe it's just I'm not a fan of Masa, and like Masa does, I don't know, it's a 3 mana 5/5, I guess, but I'd rather just be playing, you know, more elusives or more protection spells than playing these 2 cards in my Ari Kennen deck. Maybe a maybe a Timelines deck for Risu, I guess, but that Timelines doesn't care that it was a 1/1, really. So yeah, I'm not sure. These are just Kennen cards, like recall, Vandal recall cards, and I don't really think you would play these in Ari Kennen. I also don't think you would want to be in Vandal and Ari Kennen. I feel like you'd rather just be Ionia Shadow Isles. Maybe Ionia Shurima. Dusk Petal Dusk buff. Really, it's the only changes. It now affects spells instead of just units, so that's cool. You know, like Pale Cascade, the ping, the 5-mana silence. There's not that many spells this affects, but it's nice. It's fine. Like, I guess it's okay for like, it's solid for like Diana decks, so it's okay. Like, again, it's just, they're calling it a quality of life buff. Like, yeah, it's nice. It's not really gonna change too much, but it's nice to have it exist. Next up, Stagehand. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't understand this nerf. Stagehand goes from a 4/4 to a 4/2. Really big nerf. And Ephemeral makes the Stagehand enough of a poor target for interaction that it has no need for 4 health. You're not wrong, but I feel like the strength of Stagehand was also, like, between all of its other stuff, the strength of it was also that it survives Avalanche. Like, Avalanche, a card surviving Avalanche for an aggressive card, in my opinion, was huge. So, I don't know. I feel like now you're going to see, like, your opponent, like, Annie-Jin players will be like, oh, cool, I play Stagehand. And then your opponent's like, okay, sure, whatever. I Avalanche, and you lost Stagehand and probably, like, 2 or 3 more units, and you have, like, no board. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't understand this nerf. I don't think Annie-Jin needed a nerf. But I guess maybe in lower ranks, Annie-Jin does terrify lower ranks. It's not that good in higher ranks. It's okay, but whatever. Next up, we got Defiant Dance. It's now 5 mana. Not much to talk about here. Small hit to Zeralia to keep it from dominating after all of these cards get nerfed, which, you know, I like that they're preemptively nerfing strong decks. I still think this card is good. I think you're still going to play 3 of these. It's just a good card. Like, I look at this basically as Decimate for Zeralia. Huge tempo swing for you. Granted, I'm talking about like 4 mana, but huge tempo swing. You bounce like an expensive-ish unit. Like, if you ever play against a Zeralia, you're always scared to play a big unit because you're like, oh, what if I get Homecoming? What if I get Defiant Danced? So yeah, like big tempo swing by bouncing their unit back and then getting the Blade Dance to activate your Azirs and Emperor's Deus. So yeah, I still think this is a 3 of in any Zeralia deck. You will see. Next up, the Traveler is getting a buff. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really understand the buff. Traveler is now a 4/4 instead of a 3/4. I'll take it. Don't get me wrong. I will accept this buff, but I don't really think it changes too much. Because in my opinion, really like 3 to 4 attack power, I don't really think it helps trade that much better. I guess you can argue like there are some units that Traveler can trade into better now, but I really think it's not a great buff for the card. And the card has always been like in my opinion, I've always looked at Traveler as a card that's like, oh, I need a little more late game, or oh, the other invokes I have suck, but maybe I'll try again with Traveler. Like, I really need Comet. I didn't roll Comet. Let me take Traveler to try to roll Comet or Supernova. That's how I looked at Traveler. But it is nice. Like, it's nice that it trades with a little more things, but it's not a ground shaking buff, basically. Squeaker is a 2/2 instead of a 1/2 now. This is actually kind of a nice buff. It actually trades with things now without having to have Augment activate, so it's nice. So I think that's like 2 buffs now. They're even making a joke here about how it has blackmail on Riot employees or something. Like, haha, funny joke, I guess. Kind of wish you would actually not make a joke here and seriously tell me like why we're buffing Squeaker, because it's fine. I mean, it wasn't fine before. Like, it was kind of trash. Like, I believe it was a 1/1 when they first released this card. Now it's a 2/2. 2/2 is pretty solid. Like, I don't know. Like, the other problem is they're also nerfing Boom Baboon too, which is kind of funny. It's like Squeaker's getting buffed, but then the premier discard target, well, discard target creator, Boom Baboon gets nerfed. But yeah, I like that it's a 2/2 now. It can actually trade with stuff without having to activate Augment. So, you know, pretty sweet. Vandal City Mayor is actually, this card getting buffed is now 2/3. Still does the exact same stuff, but now he can actually block and not die. Kind of excited to play this guy in a couple of value-y decks. Like, maybe I can play like a Swain Vandal City deck again. That's a lot of copium. I don't think Swain Vandal is going to be good. But I'm gonna play this in Shellfolk now. Like, I'm honestly thinking this might actually be in some kind of Vandal City plus something else Shellfolk. Like, Shellfolk stopped playing this guy because 3 mana for a 2/2 is kind of a huge tempo loss. But while 2/3 is not a great stat line, it's a solid defensive stat line. It can trade with 1-drops and even some 2-drops without dying. So I like this change. Also, surviving Mystic Shot and Avalanche is a big deal. I love this nerf. I will be the first to tell you I have abused Hourglass a lot with Shurima Shellfolk. I still like this change. Hourglass is now 3 mana. It's still a playable card. I look at this nerf like the Sharp Sight nerf, where before Sharp Sight was +2/+2, now it's +1/+2. And you still play Sharp Sight. I think you're still going to play Hourglass. I just think now Hourglass is going to be this kind of card that you have to actually think. You're not going to just put in your deck where it's like, oh, I got some space in here and I like my cards. Let's put in Hourglass for a protection spell because, you know, it's cheap. So yeah, I like this nerf. I'm still going to play it in decks like Shellfolk, Mono Viego, because it's a 3 mana basically counter spell. It's not actually a counter spell, counter removal spell. In other words, it's a playable Memories Cloak, the 3 mana Ionia counter spell. You know, that card that no one ever plays. But yeah, I like it. I like the change. Feels good. Doesn't really kill the card in my opinion. Neverglade Collector is a 2/5 instead of a 2/4. Just 1 health buff. I don't really think it does much. Neverglade Collector is really just kind of supposed to be the top end of these sacrifice aggressive Shadow Isle decks, and those kind of decks just haven't been good in a long time. I feel like if maybe Curse Keeper, the 2 mana 1/1 that creates the 4/2 got buffed, maybe we could see this card come back. So I really don't think this changes much. I guess not dying to Flock is nice though. But yeah, I don't think this changes much. Indirect help for Husks, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think it's good enough for Husks. Winding Light. Winding Light got a sizable nerf. I'd say this is a big nerf. Winding Light used to always have Overwhelm itself naturally. Now it no longer has Overwhelm, and it doesn't buff itself, so it just doesn't have Overwhelm. I really like this change because it gets rid of a lot of damage that Winding Light decks would push through. Now you don't have to deal with a 6/5 Overwhelm on potentially turn 6 if they, you know, play Duskpetal Dust. So yeah, I like this change. Between this and Boom Baboon nerf, I honestly think Winding Light might be dead. I don't know, like Winding Light might still see play in non-PNZ Targon decks, but what is that, like Nightfall? Nightfall's not really that good. But yeah, like now you can just chump Winding Light with a 1/1 forever. The other Overwhelm units were only Overwhelm units for that one turn, so it is really nice that they're nerfing this. Because I hate Winding Light decks. Papercraft is now a 6-cost card. I hate Papercraft, so I am glad about this. Honestly, make it 10 mana, delete the card. I've lost so many times to like Papercraft on a Fizz or a Renekton or a lot of other things, so I'm glad this card is dying. And it's not even dying. It's still playable in my opinion. But yeah, I'm glad they nerfed this, so that's nice. Battle Bonds. This card that I won't blame you for not knowing. It was a 4-mana slow speed spell that granted 2 allies +2/+2. They're increasing 6 mana up to 5 mana, but now it's burst speed. like, that's hard. This is going to be kind of hard to evaluate because going from slow to burst is a very big change. But what deck will play this? Pantheon, I guess. Like, you can activate 2 fadeds. Wow, but I don't know. Like, it is a permanent buff, but it's 5 mana. 5 mana is a lot of mana, so I really don't understand. I don't really can't think of what deck would play this. Maybe a Zoe deck or something, but even then, that's a lot of mana. Next up, Benemony. Not much to talk about here. It's a 4/3. Now it's going to be a 4/4. Maybe you can look at this as like a Chump Wump style card. It's basically Vandal's Chump Wump. Instead of getting Puff Caps, you're getting Pranks, which is kind of cute. So I guess if you need filler for Shell Folk deck, you can always just slot this into your 4-drop slot. So it's solid. Like, it actually can trade now and maybe like block and survive. So it's kind of okay, but I feel like in a lot of decks, you'll probably just have better options than Benemony. But again, it's solid filler, like solid card number 39, card number 40. So it's fine now. Scar Maiden Reaver is actually, in my opinion, a little scary now. She is now going to be a 4/6 with Overwhelm and Regen. She already had those keywords before, but she was a 4/5. 4/6 with Regens is really scary. You know who that is? That's Trundle. And she has Overwhelm as well. A little scary. Kind of really, really scary. I don't know. I'm really scared of this in Overwhelm. I don't know, like, it's Scar Grounds, of course, too, but Scar Grounds is kind of a joke. But I don't know. I'm kind of scared of this card. Like, this is a very scary buff to me. And I believe, yeah, this is our last buffed card. Twisted Catalyzer, a darkness buff. It is now basically a revert. It's back to being a 3/2. Used to be a 3/2. They nerfed it to a 2/2, and now it's back to being a 3/2. Gonna be honest, I don't think it changes much. It is nice that it can block Fearsome, and it can attack into 2/3s and actually trade. So that is nice, I will say that. Now, if you see your opponent play like Aspiring Chronomancer, the 2-mana 2/3 would predict, you're not that sad anymore because you'll be like, at least they trade. So yeah, I like this revert. It feels good. Darkness hasn't been playable in a long time because of a combination of it just being bad, and Ishtali Sentinel was bugged for the longest time. I honestly don't think Darkness will come back. I'm going to play it. I'm going to try it. I would really love to be wrong on this, but I honestly think that the meta is going to be very hostile to Darkness. Sure, if Pirates and Monkeys stay around, I guess Darkness will have a couple of decks to target. But if Azir Aurelia sticks around, Shurima decks in general stick around, and especially if Turbo Thralls gets more popular, I'm really scared of this. If Infinite Action gets more popular too, it's been seeing a rise in play as well. Infinite Action is really scary for a lot of control decks because it's hard to interact with for control decks. So yeah, I think like Turbo Thralls, Infinite Action, we'll see a rise in play. Pirates didn't get touched, and Pirates have been starting to slowly creep up in terms of their play rate, like Misfortune, TF kind of Pirates. Monkeys haven't been nerfed either. Like, all these aggressive decks haven't been nerfed. I don't really think Star Shaping is going to do too much to slow them down. I'm still waiting for my Fangs buff. Please revert Fangs. Make it a 3/2 eventually. One of these days. Please, Riot. And for the last little bit, of course, we'll talk about it too. Not much to talk about here with the last few things. Just some personalization stuff that will not affect the vast majority of people. But it seems like they're giving out seasonal tournament rewards as alongside the regular, the money itself. They're going to give like some exclusive cosmetics, a board, which looks very beautiful, by the way, a card back, and an icon. I wonder if this means we're going to get more cosmetics that are tournament related. I know League of Legends does that as well, so we might be seeing like maybe skins that you get for participating in seasonals, maybe making day 2 of seasonals or something. I don't know if they will do that, but I do like this. I think it's pretty cool. Just a nice little reward, of course. I assume most people who win or do well in seasonals mostly just care about, you know, the money. But it is nice. It looks cool. And that's the other thing. It looks really nice too. And I believe that is it. Some bug fixes, of course, but I don't think any of these bug fixes really change much. Like this one right here is a big change. Shen, Kinku Student, and Void Abomination will now interact with allies as intended. If you don't know what that means, basically if you would barrier something in hand, Shen, Kinku Student, and Void Abomination would see you barriering something in hand and doing their respective thing. Like Shen would progress with his level up, Kinku Student would get barrier, Void Abomination would get barrier, etc., etc. So that's a pretty big bug fix too. There were a decent amount of people who were abusing that bug, in fact, playing things like Shen Bard. So I don't think Shen Bard will exist anymore without being able to take advantage of that bug. But yeah, that's going to be it for the balance patch. I hope you all enjoyed it. I will say this. I like the balance patch overall. A couple of cards I feel just weren't nerfed hard enough, and a couple of cards I feel that could have been buffed just weren't buffed. Basically, I'm still sad my Fangs hasn't been buffed. And I say this, I think, almost every single time we get a balance patch. I wish they were a little more aggressive with their buffs. Feels like a lot. I understand why they're a little scared to like create a new deck by buffing too hard. You know, like a Sun Disc or a Darius Harrowing kind of deck. But I would prefer if they tried and buffed things even harder. I'll take a Darius Harrowing. I'll take a Sun Disc if it means they are more aggressive with their buffs. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's like an 8 out of 10 balance patch if I had to rank it on a 10-point scale. Like solid, hits a lot of decks that are powerful in ways that hurt them a lot without actually killing them. Another big thing that I liked is that they nerfed decks that may not have been like the most popular or really strong decks, but were actually just still strong, but being held back by the top tier decks, you know, like Kaisa, etc., etc. So, you know, like nerfing Blade Dance, nerfing Papercraft. So yeah, looking forward to playing this set. Going to be playing it a lot too, or this balance patch. So yeah, that's going to be it. Like I said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this patch yourself. Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? What kind of decks are you thinking about playing yourself? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you guys just enjoyed the video in general, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. Always helps me and the channel out. And if you guys want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, you can go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zenatan, where I stream pretty much every single day. And if you want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel as well. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.